in this year's draft, and he'll be spending some time with a couple of teams who are picking early in the first round. Adam Schefter reported that he is set for visits with the Panthers and the Falcons next week, and he has also met with the Steelers, Giants, Titans, and Saints as a part of the pre-draft process. He transferred from Auburn and spent the last 2 seasons as the starter at Liberty. The Panthers currently have the number 6 overall pick, and the Falcons have the number 8 overall pick. So if we are looking at the top 20 picks in this year's draft.
So this feels like Carolina's move, because my takeaway on this is Darnold's style. There's a little Malik Willis, which is he moves well. He's a good, Sam can wing it. He's not a big arm guy. But listen, you could bring him in, and Sam Darnold isn't good enough to push back. You could say, hey, listen, we're going to give Malik real snaps every game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think you need to start Sam. Like, I think you can just give the job to Malik Willis, and if he doesn't happen to win it this year, then you have him. But Sam has in no way earned the starter position at that organization.
So it's not
I think the Panthers, if they don't go with Kenny Pickett, they would go with Malik Willis. I think Malik Willis would also be a great pick for the Falcons. And it would actually probably be a better situation for Malik to go to the Falcons because...
but Mariotti's also got a little Malik in that Marcus can move. He's got great feet.
And Marcus is a great locker room guy. Yeah. So even though he is right now assumed to be the starter, if they do take Malik, it's not going to be a quarterback controversy. It's not going to be a whole issue.
Here's the good news. If you're Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett, if you go to Carolina or Atlanta, they've got offensive coaches. Right. Young, smart offensive coaches. My thing is, why worry about Justin Fields? He has a rookie defensive coach. I mean, I think it's changed so much.
I am far more concerned for Justin Fields, not about him. I do think he has potential to be a star. I am concerned for what Chicago has put around him and is saying they're going to continue to put around him by not leaning into the offense in the draft or having some sort of concern about whether they should do that as well. But it could be interesting. You know, there has been talks that the Lions are open to moving off of number 2 and moving down.
See, I get that. I don't think Detroit's issue is Jared Goff. They can't stop anybody.
I don't think they're going to move off of Jared Goff.
Yeah.
I'm saying if someone falls in love with Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett, do they make that move?
Yeah.
That might be an overdraft, as many would consider. But if you got to get the guy, you got to get the guy. And I think particularly in Carolina, there's a little bit of a hot seat situation that's not going on in Atlanta as of yet. So the Cowboys have lost some key pieces this offseason, and Michael Irvin thinks there is a way that they can improve next season. He said, they're not a better team talent-wise. This game doesn't require skill, it requires will. If a team loses a little bit of skill but gains greater will, they can still do great things. If the Cowboys can take the disappointment of that defeat against San Francisco, beating you at home, if they can take that and internalize it in the offseason and come with less skill and more will and have a better season. I think they're going to need more skill.
Yeah, that whole will thing, it sounds like Hoosiers. You need players.
I mean, I think, Michael obviously had great success, but he is also one of the most talented players to ever play the game. So I don't like what they lost this year. They lost Randy Gregory, Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson, and Lyle Collins.
And as our guest said earlier today, Moose Johnson, Cedric Wilson became a really good player. Like Miami sneakily got Tyreek Hill with Jalen Waddle, and it's like, timeout. Cedric Wilson's now your 3. That's why you're getting rid of Devontae Parker.
Yeah, the receiving core is set in Miami.
Their tight end's great.
They are good to go in the weapons departments. The problem with the Cowboys is not only do I not like the pieces that they lost, I hated the way that the season ended, and I just don't feel like that they have improved in any area. I feel like the end of the season was a coaching error.
Yeah.
But that didn't change. So if you want to keep with the same regime, that's fine. But where are you improving? Now, the draft hasn't happened yet. They have done a pretty good job of drafting over the past couple years. So as my friends who are Cowboys fans like to remind me, let's wait until after the draft before we completely persecute the Cowboys.
Right.
But they're kind of in a win-now situation. So I don't know that I love them building heavily to the draft at this point in their organization's situation either. Yeah. Like, they're not a particularly young team in that regard. Oh, the Lakers. Well, they're trying to fight for a playoff spot. They have been trying to fight since most of their season has been derailed by injuries, which will continue tonight as LeBron will not be playing again against the Suns with an ankle injury. And Anthony Davis said he thinks about what could have been if they were all healthy.
Kind of feel like, okay, what could we have been if I was healthy all year, Brian was healthy, K-Nunn is healthy. Like, you think about those things. We put this team together, look really good on paper, but we haven't had a chance to reach that potential with guys being, in and out of the lineup. So the most frustrating part about, this season is just not being sure of what we could have been.
Well, with a loss tonight, plus a Spurs win against the Nuggets, they would be officially ineligible for the play-in tournament. We played the sound from Magic yesterday on ESPN, talking about LeBron pushing for Westbrook. They could have had DeMar DeRozan. They could have had Buddy Hield.
I think it would have been neat. DeMar played at USC. He's had a great year. It's funny.
He was in the MVP conversation for a lot of the year.
So DeMar DeRozan has become a better three-point shooter, but he was basically a mid-range guy. He had an old-school game, and as the league became very three-ball oriented, people kind of cast DeMar DeRozan aside. And it's like, no, time out. 25 points a game in the NBA.
He's a very reliable player.
Yeah, and
very
he's
consistent.
Super athletic, plays hard.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You get cast aside in this league if you can't hit a three, and it's like, Giannis has value, and Chris Paul's got value, and DeMar DeRozan. I just take a deep breath. There are guys that aren't three-point assassins that are wildly important in this. I would argue Chris Paul is as important to any roster and Giannis as anybody in the league. There's a lot of guys jacking up threes that can't play on the defensive end.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously Lakers fans didn't like to hear that from Magic, but I think looking at where and why Magic would say that, you're starting to kind of see the picture of what is to come for the Lakers and the organization, as everyone is sort of positioning themselves and trying to take slices out of the blame pie for what's happened this year. But to me, it's just two fundamental things that happened with the Lakers. One, Anthony Davis is not healthy. You can't have your number two star that inconsistent.
Right.
You can't build your team around him. Yes, they won a championship. I don't care how great he is when he's healthy. He is unavailable consistently. That is the book on Anthony Davis now. You're not going to win a championship with your star in LeBron James in his 20th year with a guy in your number two who is unreliable. That is just fundamentally not how it's going to go down in this league with the talent. With respect to the other talent on the other teams in this league, that's not how you're going to win. The other main issue with the Lakers is who is in charge of the Lakers? Who is making the basketball decisions? Who is the buck stop with? Every week, is it Kurt Rambis? Is it Rob Pelinka? Is it Jeannie? Now apparently it's LeBron. Who's in charge? There's no accountability and no face. At the Sixers organization, who makes the decisions for the Sixers organization?
Daryl Morey.
Who makes the decisions for the Miami Heat?
Pat Riley.
Correct. I can go on and on and on with all well-run organizations. The Golden State Warriors. We know who makes the decisions at well-run organizations because there is responsibility and accountability when things go wrong. Everyone's trying to plant their flag on, I didn't make this call, and I'm not responsible for this, and this roster decision was this guy, and now we're going to move on from Frank Vogel as if he didn't win a championship 2 years ago for somebody else who probably didn't win a championship or hasn't won a championship in the last 10 years. What is the solution? How about somebody step up and take some accountability for what's happened this year? Just anybody, just someone. Someone needs to. Yeah. And then moving forward, establish who is actually making the decisions. You can't put it on LeBron James for this entire roster.
No, you can't. No, I didn't say that. That is, but I do think I think he had more influence. I think he had more influence
on the Westbrook than he's going. Yes, than he's going to put out.
The Buddy Hield move was done.
Okay, but you also made the decision to give LeBron James that power.
That's a fair argument. That in the end, Pat Riley would have said, "No, I'm doing this."
He didn't say no. That's why LeBron went to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And you can't also say that LeBron's always made the wrong decisions. He made it work in Miami with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade and a roster that was changing around.
I'm not anti-LeBron guy, but I do feel like the vibe this year has been very much like it's been like, listen, LeBron, you guys wanted Westbrook here. Let's be honest about it. And you showed some influence. Now you can move away from it. I think the reason Magic came out is the Lakers feel like we're in this together and we're taking all the hits.
I agree with you there.
That's
why I firmly believe that if the Lakers want to change course for the trajectory that they're on right now, the number one thing that has to happen is accountability. Who is in charge? Because if it's Rob Pelinka, then he has to take responsibility for the Westbrook decision. So Rob Pelinka's not in charge, so LeBron's in charge? Well, then you have to take responsibility for turning this over to LeBron.
It is hard because, for instance, Green Bay did not want to bring Randall Cobb back. But you have this star, they have leverage, they threaten to leave, they start grumbling, and you kind of feel like, all right, LeBron's going to be happier with Westbrook, Aaron's going to be happier with Randall Cobb. By the way, Randall Cobb's fine, but there's a reason they're not in on any other wide receiver right now that's available.
Right, and I don't like the way that Green Bay does business overall, but that's also why I would probably defer to Aaron Rodgers. They haven't been aggressive throughout their entire history. They had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers for the last 30 years. They have 2 championships to show for it. Can't say that about the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have banners. They have a standard, and they have a brand that is international. It is however you feel about it, the Lakers are still the biggest brand in basketball.